startups, entrepreneurship, starting your own new business. Join me every week as we dive into stories, topics, and advices from the top founders, innovators, the crazy ones, the misfits, the troublemakers. Every Saturday at 4 p.m. I'll see you there.
So before actually joining the organization you're with now, where else have you worked? What else have you been doing up to?
More about the world, and the reason for that was to understand sort of what my place is in the world and how I can be of service.
I ask what Save the Kids is doing overall, just a brief or an extensive description, and then what your role is over there.
What would it look like if you married your skill set with purpose? And although I had heard that like in different forms along the way from parents and others, it was probably the first time I heard it that way, and it stuck, like where I really paused.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. My name is Allahwala, and this is the Startup Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest and a very good friend, Bleu Blakslee, with us, who it feels like a long time since I've met her, but it's only recently. I'm only in February. It feels like years, honestly. It's been so long. But today we have Blue with us. Blue is doing a lot of work in a few spaces, but we'll learn more about what she does from her. I don't want to blab much about her, so I want her to tell more about herself and all the things that she's doing. It's a phenomenal journey that she has already shared with me, but I'd love to know more with this audience to see how she's helping this world and how we could maybe work together in helping her achieve her mission faster and us achieving ours through her. Thank you so much for your time, Blue, and for joining the podcast today.
Yeah, and Saad, it does feel like forever, and I'm very honored to be talking with you today. So I would just maybe start out by saying I'm 35 plus years in the nonprofit space that crosses over predominantly on the international side. How that ever came to be. So, my family, they were entrepreneurs, and I have a lot of attorneys in the family. I wanted to head sort of that direction, but along the way, and they call it a gap year now. I love saying this story for myself, but along the way, my parents said, even though we had done a lot of global traveling by the time I was about to head off to college, they really felt like I needed to know more about the world. And the reason for that was to understand sort of what my place is in the world and how I can be of service. So they posed an opportunity for me, and I trusted my parents. So I ended up traveling with a group called Up With People, which was created in the 60s. I traveled with 115 young people from ages 18 to 25 for a full year, representing 26
Wow.
countries. We were in a new city every 3 days, performing a professional show, and we stayed with host families and we did community service in every city. So that took us to Europe, it took us to Canada, to Mexico, and then all through the United States. And the reason I mention that is because I knew, like, after that year, I needed to get to college. And at the same time, I just had such an extraordinary year. So what I ended up doing was working at the headquarters and going to a university that was really close to the headquarters. So I worked full time, and they were kind enough to move me through different divisions. I ended the last 2 years in what is known as the advancement division. And I had this incredible mentor. And right before, like probably about 2 weeks before my graduation from college, he said, let's talk about this for a minute. What would it look like if you married your skill set with purpose? And although I had heard that like in different forms along the way from parents and others, it was probably the first time I heard it that way and it stuck, like where I really paused. So basically, every few years I call him because I'm now, like I said, 35 years in the field. And I tell this mentor, I said, I'm really glad you posed that question to me. I'm not sure I would have paused at that time around this. And it is the reason why I continue to be in this field. When I ask myself, am I doing the right thing? You know, should I continue doing what I'm doing? I always come back to yes. So I always say thank you. So that really started my journey. And I have a heart. If you look at my background, you're going to see a lot of international work and then focus on children and also healthcare.
Awesome. No, that's really beautiful. I'd like to know more about how it started though. So where were you born? Where were you brought up? Where did you go to school? And what kind of degree did you get?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So I'm native Hawaiian. I'm originally from Hawaii. I grew up on an island. And my mom she was a journalist. She was the first in our family to go to college.
Wow.
She went off island. That's where she met her mother. Yeah. And so that's where I'm from. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs, so I spent a lot of my years moving around as far as like going to different places with them, sort of following along and watching them do their thing. Um, and the thing that I remember is that my parents were always about, like, even when I was younger, they were always about giving back or talking about service or talking about more, macro conversations, like what's going on in the state of Hawaii, what's going on for Native Hawaiians, what's going on in the world, what's happening in these different parts of the world. And I always really enjoyed that because I felt like it could be quite easy on growing up on an island to have sort of a tunnel vision of your space in the world. But that really led to a lot of my curiosity on a lot of different topics because my parents were always, inquisitive and wanting to engage in topics.
Awesome. Where did you go to high school though? Was it in Hawaii?
Yep. Yep. Fun story. So I went to grade school, French school in Hawaii. There's only
French
one,
school.
and then I happened to a French school, and I happened to go to that. And then I went to high school, where one of our presidents actually came from, and we actually had the same dean, which was fun. Not the same age, but same dean. So Obama is from Hawaii,
Hmm.
and he attended the same high school. And so what's fun that people don't know is that within this community, the school that I attend, there's a lot of pride. So I actually have other alums who are in his class who have shown pictures of when he was in grade school. And a lot of people don't know that he played baseball. They mostly think of him as a basketball player.
Oh,
And he comes to Hawaii, he specifically, which is fun because I have a lot of classmates who will, all of a sudden there'll be photos just like flowing. And it's because he is walking the campus in his shorts and slippers. And he typically plays like a round of basketball with the seniors. So Yeah.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
actually very cool.
Yeah. I think so. And when he comes to Hawaii, so sometimes he'll come for a break because he grew up in Hawaii. Um, on the side of the island that I grew up on, there's this little, I mean, it's really like a hole in the wall. It's a shave ice place. And he oftentimes has frequented that. So you go in and you see this really fun picture of Obama on the wall. Uh, and a lot of people end up finding this little shave ice place.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
so before actually joining the organization you're with now, where else have you worked? What else have you been doing up to?
Yeah. So I started off really on the healthcare side, and that's when I returned to Hawaii. And from there, um,
Where did you go to college? Sorry,
basically,
don't mind me asking.
I went to University of Arizona
Uh,
in Tucson, and part of that leads back to that story that I mentioned before, which is that's where the headquarters of Up With People was. So it was just down the street, which was great. And it was a very large public US college. Great experience. And um, let's see. So because I have a heartbeat for education, children, and healthcare, a lot of the organizations that I have worked with have been larger national and international organizations, but predominantly in that space. So I'm a returnee to Save the Children. And in between there, I was 7 years with pediatric cancer national and international hospital called St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So they're located in Memphis, Tennessee, in the US. And a lot of people are not aware that they actually have been on the international side well over like 15 years. I joined the foundation specifically to not only do the work on the West Coast, which is what I have done for a long time, but also to help explore connecting the foundation on the international side and cross-border giving. So, and I have to say, in all the organizations that I've been with, I'm a proud alum of them all because I feel like everybody's, we're in the ecosystem of trying to lift things up and do, the best work we can do on the missions that we're working with. And that really is not siloed. So prior to that, I worked for a hospital system. I oversaw 4 hospitals of a 6 hospital system in the US. And that was specific to their fundraising efforts. So there's typically in the US a foundation attached to a hospital. A lot of hospitals are a 501(c)(3), so they need, private funding as well to be able to uh, increase their programs and their reach. Outside of that, there's an organization that maybe you've heard of. It's called Mercy Ships. That's on the international medical side. So they're known for, I think they have 2 ships right now that are
Oh, Mercy Ship.
used.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercy Ships. Yep. And during the time that I was with them, they were deploying out to the west side of Africa. So I had the great privilege when I was there to actually go uh, to Togo, and I got to spend time on the ship. And I literally, what was so amazing was that I was invited into one of the surgical procedures. And what I observed, and I was literally like, just a table away from the surgical procedure. But what was really fun to see was these doctors and professionals from around the world, and there were 2 interpreters in there, working specifically on this particular patient to help with the medical needs. And it was just a reminder of the power of, right, that collaborative global opportunity to, lift the community up. So uh, just great experience. And they're doing really great work as well. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
those are a few. Yeah, those are a few.
So if I ask, what Save the Kids is doing, overall, just a brief or an extensive description, and then what your role is over there, of course.
Yeah. So Save the Children is 105 years old. It was started by a woman from the UK. Eglatine Jeb is her name. We're in 115 countries, including we have representation in Pakistan. And basically, the way I like to describe it is that Save the Children looks for basically the pain points within countries for children. Like, where can we bring our expertise? Where can we work on the ground with other local NGOs and the government to help lift up issues or needs for children? And oftentimes that'll look like a focus on education, early education. Uh, we have a healthcare team. We also, work on various topics. So, for example, we were really excited this last month to highlight the work that we did in Sierra Leone with the First Lady of Sierra Leone, and she was championing the conversation about early child marriage within her country. And so that was an ecosystem that she brought together with some leaders from Save the Children. We actually have a collection of philanthropists from the US, women who really wanted to participate in that. And we call that the 100 Strong program.
Hmm.
And then we believe in localization. Like, we know that those on the ground have a much better framing of all the details to help. So we're just one part of that process. But that's usually, I would say, the better way to describe it. I've come back to Save the Children. My title is Senior Advisor of Emerging Markets and Philanthropy Partners. So what my focus is on things that are newer to the nonprofit sector or the international sector. So topics that maybe we don't fully have a handle on, but we want to make sure that we are speaking the right language and understand, because there's so many changes that are happening within the nonprofit sector that if, for example, we don't know how to activate for those next gen philanthropists, because we have sort of one way of thinking, but others feel like impact is important and this is how we want to help.
Mhm.
If those things don't meet up, then we're probably not going to be able to help or have a conversation, right? Because that next gen philanthropist might say, oh gosh, that's a little antiquated, or like, I'm not sure you understand what I'm trying to get to, and so forth. So there's a lot of different topics like that. I spend a lot of time in blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFT, metaverse, AI. I have an affinity for space because I see the application with regards to how that can help um, bring information, and just generally help the nonprofit sector. Um, I spend time in the family office community because there's a lot of philanthropic interest, and I think we can help share what Save the Children is working on to see if people have an interest in aligning with the work that we're leading. So a lot of innovation topics is where I spend a lot of my time.
Awesome. Well, that's really beautiful. Um, and thank you for explaining that. Wait, so I am going to be a little biased. What are you guys doing in Pakistan? I am a little interested. But
Yeah.
of course, more than Pakistan, there's so many more countries. Okay, so what's the Who? Hmm. There's so many questions. I'm trying to shape this right one, the right one. But I would ask, of course, Save the Children is working for kids, right? So it's mainly for children. And of course, you mentioned the First Lady's initiative in Sierra Leone. But generally, is it any and every topic that might be the betterment for the kids, or are there some specific niches that Save the Children is working in? Just to get a right picture of the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's always such a big question because I remember, again, this is round two for me at Save the Children. Um, I think there's a lot of things that we do really well. And I think because we have been focused on children for, 100+ years, right? That allows us to just continue to build our understanding, build information so that we can cross-share that with countries, with, just the macro lens on what are important topics or subject matters that affect children. Children don't have a voice, right? Oftentimes, I have a seat in the government to be able to say, "Hey, this is what's happening to me." So you
Yeah.
need champions out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I, I'll just say right now, there's a lot of conversation out there in the US where people are hearing Save the Children around Ukraine and Gaza on the emergency side. So we are able to, for example, our CEO, her name is Yanti Sarepto. She was able to actually cross the border in Gaza a couple months ago. So you can imagine, like, because there's so much going on there, to have an international nonprofit leader go in and just be able to help tell the story, not political, just in there and showing like how there's impact for children and elevating that, bringing that back, and sharing that story at the UN and so forth, how important that is. Because usually what happens in emergencies is that you have a lot of INGOs, but you may not always have the INGOs that are focused on children's issues. So moms in time of crisis, they need different things, right? Children, infants in time of crisis, they need things like formulas, formula, diapers, different things. So to have that in the ecosystem and part of the conversation is really critical. So that's the voice that we work on lifting up, and some of the things that people are hearing now, but there's so much more that we, from an emergency perspective, from a country perspective that we're involved with. So, it depends. And I was just reminding myself. So, as you can imagine, working for an international nonprofit in 115 countries, I have to like work really hard to make sure I'm working very closely with our programmatic team members to really understand like all the different things that we're doing. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So with regards to Pakistan, and I'm going to just do a disclaimer that I don't know everything. We have a country leader.
I was just bothering you. I'll talk definitely. I know you're gonna connect to them. I'll talk to them. But no, it's just I just wanted to mess with you and start the question in a funny way. But it's really very impressive, and as you now mention it, more and more important, and I see why all these conversations are important. I hope this podcast can also add some value to the initiative, because usually not even hearing about such things, or things around kids being such an issue, or actually there being problems. Actually listening to some of the issues highlights more of things that are in the back of our head, and now it's more clear to me, and it's very important, because even if I think of my little sister or my younger brother, and thinking of them in an issue or a crisis, something that they might be able to might go through, it really hurts, and gives the right picture of how bad the situation really is for so many people around the world. Um, so on what's something that people can work? So as I mentioned initially, I'd want to explore opportunities where there could be room for mutual corporations, right? So there's a lot of startups in Pakistan. Excuse me. There's a lot of startups in Pakistan that are working for kids. Um, whether that's for education. There's one for prosthetic arms, but that's of course for serious situations. There's so many more. I mean, I'm sure if I could post it on my LinkedIn, if someone actually could respond by watching this podcast, and list down people who are working in the children's space, I think that could be a great help because we want to see more and more corporations. If I asked this, because say the children has been working for so long, and if there was, let's say, a foundation in Pakistan or anywhere around the world that's owned in Pakistan, or some company that wanted to develop something for kids, would there be like room for collaboration with Save the Kid to explore the right thing to do, the right thing, the right product to develop, or let's say the right market to test their products in, if that's of course even if it's not for only for charity, right? Even if it's not an NGO related to work, it can be more an education or something. So is that something that might be a possibility with Save the Children?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we really welcome the all conversations because, as you can imagine, there's no way to solve all these problems, by ourselves. It
Yeah.
really needs collaborative spirit, not only of the nonprofit side, internationally, nationally, but also the private sector side. So companies, foundations, that's the way that we're going to be able to lift the boat, for children. And honestly, when I say that I'm a returnee to Save the Children, the reason that I came back was because during the pandemic, as we were all on Zoom and, doing that, I really felt like it was going to be a heavier lift coming out of everything. And that if you could lend your 2 cents to help, with that ecosystem for children, it is a important and great investment, right? Because that's our future. So absolutely. And we actually, we have many a time, and I don't want to speak for the country director in Pakistan, but I'm pretty sure this would be the case, is we have many a time taken leaders from companies and from foundations to go actually see our programs so that they understand like what their impact could look like, what it does, and what we are doing on the ground. So, my first round at Save the Children, I actually took a group of retired Microsoft executives to Bhutan because at the time that they were opening their borders, what the question that they were trying to get to is how do we utilize the tool of the cloud, because a lot of our educators have access to Google, but there's no one repository space. So how do we learn to bring that information together to amplify the information so that educators don't have to, sort of work in silos? They can pull that information and draw from a resource. So we actually sat down because we had been one of two international nonprofits in Bhutan. When I went 10 years ago, we had been there for 30 years. So there was a trust there. And so we were able to sit with the Department of Education and their leaders and really talk this out and then bring our expertise, which helped give them some new ideas and a method to think through like how they wanted to, push that forward.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
No, it's really good to see that such large organizations are open for conversations who are people who want mutual benefits, of course, and explore solving such issues, large issues, in a better manner collectively. I was just talking to Mary a few hours ago, and we were talking about the same thing, that how we're all put on this world to help humanity, and any single effort that's for the betterment of anything, whether it's even not even human, let's even say if it's an ant or a plant, that is going to come around and help you. Because the more we think about others, the more we think about or even execute for the betterment for of others, it's indirectly or indirectly helping us, right? So it's really a beautiful initiative that you have uh, taken up and have joined Save the Children. Um, Again, it really makes me happy to see you thriving for all of this and doing so much. If someone wanted to start a conversation, what's the best manner to actually, excuse me, start a conversation? So, what is the best point of contact? Is it just, should they go on your website or should they ping you on LinkedIn? What should be the best way to go forward?
Yeah, I would say anybody, who's watching this, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm really active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Um, and then also I can send you my email address too for Save the Children. Either way, but I think having sort of a way to start, and then certainly either I can, help navigate, or I can make a connection as well.
Awesome. So, and even if they're not, let's say they want a specific country, they can also go on your website, right?
Yes,
Oh,
exactly. Yeah. And if there's any issue, then, again, find me on LinkedIn. I can
yeah.
help navigate.
If they're not helping you, ping Blake, uh, Blue, and she'll help you right away.
Happy to.
Awesome. I don't think, have I missed out on anything that I should be mentioning?
I think you asked really great questions, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And I would just say, um, I love this kind of conversation because I do think, like I said, there's so much going on in the world for children. And the more conversations we have, the more collaborative, right? Like opportunities there are, the more we see, spaces where, oh gosh, I can introduce you, or this, or whatever it is. But I don't think we can reach the SDG, 2030 goals unless we just continue to consider thinking a little differently, right? It's like just expanding our thoughts a bit. And it's needed because there's a lot that's going on in the world. So
I agree. I'm just now at this point, I'm just curious of how we're gonna achieve the SDG 2030 goals, because we've
yeah,
been delaying it for so long,
right.
in every single aspect that let's see.
Yeah.
But I have made a pledge that every single business that I'm starting after this project that I'm on has to be related to something sustainability and has to have a large impact. One of my goals for 2030, so no, so to 2032, until I'm 30 actually, is I want to plant 1 billion trees. So I've already accomplished 100,000, and I still have a long way to go, but I will get to 1 billion and achieve that. So
Yeah. It's exciting. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, that's the kind of, right, is like, um, thinking of like how much, like where can we push the boundaries, and where's our little like part to the conversation. At Save the Children, I'll just say really fast, we've had to do the same thing. Is like, oh my gosh, the 2030 goals are like around the corner, and we are a couple of steps back, multiple steps back. So what do we do? And so that's why on our side, like the innovation topic is so important. That's why this emerging markets conversation, that I'm swimming in is important. We also have a venture fund that's new to the sector. There's a few organizations out there doing it, but it's like pushing the boundaries to see how can we think or imagine differently. But together, I believe we can get there.
I think so too. I'm really excited to see all the things that are happening. And I was really happy. I'm still very grateful to my dad that he pushed me to go to Davos to be able to meet people like you and such amazing people over there and people who are actually striving to make an impact. This episode is also part of the Startup Podcast Impact Series. So people who are actually making an impact and thinking outside the box, thinking of the larger picture, at the larger picture. Well, thank you so much for your time, Blue. I really appreciate the fact that you're doing so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing you again in Dallas.
Same here.
And if there's anything that I missed, please do let me know. And then we can cover that.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Davos next year. Very inspired, and I'm really grateful. I'm going to do a shout out to Mary for the opportunity for us all to cross paths.
Oh yeah, thank you, Mary, for introducing us. Um, she's an amazing person. You're an amazing person. I would really, I mean, I don't want to suggest to too many people, but I have been suggesting it to a lot of people, but to go to Davos and actually experience the amazing people that are there, to just collaborate with them, talk to them, interact with them. It's just a phenomenal experience. So again, close to the person who started it, but I'm again really grateful that I met you, and again looking forward to meeting you again.
Yeah, same here. And thank you for all the work that you're leading, and thank you for this opportunity. And certainly anybody that's, listening to your podcast, if there's anything I can do, just know that feel free to contact me.
Well, you'll be tagged on the video, so
Okay.
you can easily access your LinkedIn and then connect with you. If they have any questions, they can talk to you directly.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much. You have
All
a good-
right.
Startups, entrepreneurship, starting your own new business. Join me every week as we dive into stories, topics, and advices from the top founders, innovators, the crazy ones, the misfits, the troublemakers. Every Saturday at 4 p.m. I'll see you there.